Japan has more than 9 million abandoned houses, entire islands without life, with countless buildings, houses, entire cities empty. And the number only grows each year. The most curious thing is that the government is giving away many houses for free, but no one wants them. Some of these houses are even located in the countryside, in very beautiful regions where a few people still live. But why doesn't anyone want to move there? 1 in every 7 houses in the country is completely abandoned. You find houses being sold for next to nothing in areas that aren't bad, but no one wants to buy them. There are villages where everyone simply left. There's even a village where only dolls of all the former residents remain. But where did these people go, and why did they disappear? In this video, you will get to know some of Japan's most bizarre islands, entire cities that were abandoned overnight, and you will discover why there are so many abandoned houses in Japan. Let's start by understanding the scale of this problem. Japan has 9 million vacant houses. They are called akiya in Japanese, and it seems that this is going to get much worse. By 2040, 30% of all Japanese houses could be empty. This is not a regional issue. It's a problem for the entire country. And we're talking about Japan here, the 3rd largest economy in the world, a country that seems to have come from the future. But why are entire cities being abandoned? There are multiple reasons, and you will be surprised by them. This is Greater Tokyo, one of the most modern and densely populated cities on the planet. With gigantic buildings, a lot of technology, and millions of people living in tiny spaces. And here you have the Japanese countryside with completely empty villages, houses overtaken by vegetation, deserted streets, a silence that resembles those post-apocalyptic movies. It's as if there are 2 completely different countries in one place. And one of the most chilling sides of Japan you can discover are the ghost islands. This is Hashima, also known as Gun-Kajima. In the 1950s, this small island had about 5,000 inhabitants. 5,000 people living in less than 1 km². It was the highest population density in the entire world at the time. Imagine living in a very small can with more than 50 people. The island had apartment buildings, schools, hospitals, cinemas, and even some temples. It was a very complete city built on top of a coal mine in the middle of the ocean. But in 1974, the mine simply closed. And guess what happened? This island was completely abandoned in a single day. In 24 hours, everyone who lived there simply disappeared. Today, Hashima is a ghost town. Buildings in ruins, broken windows, everything practically collapsing, 0 inhabitants. Nature is reclaiming everything. This looks a lot like those end-of-the-world movie scenarios. In fact, it was a setting for the James Bond movie, Skyfall. After a while, the island became a very macabre tourist attraction. People pay to see what remains of this abandoned civilization. And Hashima is not the only one. You have Ikechima, another former mining island that is about 90% uninhabited. You also have Tsurushima, which is an abandoned military island near Tokyo. You also have Miyakejima, which was evacuated due to a volcanic eruption in the 2000s, and many people simply never returned. There are hundreds of small islands in Japan that don't have a single inhabitant. Entire islands, empty, which were inhabited in the past, but nowadays no one lives there. Imagine how bizarre it must be to be adrift at sea, and when you finally reach an island, you find that there's no one there. It's completely empty. But why doesn't anyone return? It's very simple. There's nothing to work with in these places. The houses and areas are completely destroyed. The maintenance costs in this place would be very high. The connection to the mainland is very expensive and very difficult, and especially young people no longer want this kind of isolated life. No one wants to live in a place like this. But surprise, these islands are not even remotely the only places that were or are being abandoned in Japan. There's much more. This here is Fukushima, and some of you might know it for a somewhat sad reason. March 2011, a magnitude 9.0 earthquake hit Japan. A huge tsunami devastated the coast, and then the unthinkable happened. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. 160,000 people were evacuated. Entire cities were abandoned overnight. Nami, Futaba, Okuma, places where families lived for decades, simply abandoned in a matter of hours. And that's where the Fukushima exclusion zone is born. The scene in these places is quite apocalyptic, really. Abandoned cars in the streets, shops with products on the shelves, houses with tables still set. It's like someone came and pressed a pause button on people's lives, or raptured these people. Nature began to take everything back. And this is where the Forbidden Zone is. An area of 300 kilometer became uninhabitable for some time. Back then, radiation was still a concern. But over time, fortunately, this zone has decreased, much due to government efforts. But this place never returned to normal. The Japanese government tries to repopulate some areas. It offers money, living facilities, incentives. But young people simply refuse. No one wants to raise a family in a land that is considered contaminated. And this is not just in Fukushima. You have villages built on the slopes of active volcanoes, areas at high risk of tsunamis, regions prone to landslides. You have several places that have simply become too dangerous to live in. Japan, truly, is not just that beautiful paradise in Tokyo that everyone knows. The truth is, there are many regions you can't even imagine, and these places are completely abandoned. So far, I've talked about natural aspects and causes beyond human control, which have often forced people to leave a particular region. But there's something even more curious: human reasons, such as beliefs and fears, that have made some places become uninhabited overnight. In Japan, there's a concept called jikobuken, which refers to houses considered cursed. The Japanese avoid living in such places at all costs, usually where bad things have happened in the past. I even have a very comprehensive video about it. Check it out later. But without a doubt, one of the issues that worries them the most is the cases of kodakuchi, which is the word for lonely death. When someone dies in a house, especially in a tragic way, the value of that house plummets, or worse, it becomes completely uninhabitable. No one wants to buy this house. It seems that this mark is permanent. I talked about this in detail in a recent past video, and there are companies that even clean these houses. But it seems that even after cleaning, the house remains stained forever in the minds of the Japanese. There are also the superstitions and fears they have of ghosts that inhabit old houses where people have died, and no one wants to buy a haunted house like that. And because of these issues, the real estate market in rural areas is simply collapsing. The economic death of the Japanese countryside usually follows the same pattern. Local industries die, coal mines close, factories move to China or Southeast Asia, where labor is cheaper, agriculture ceases to be profitable, commercial fishing no longer provides sustenance, and so on. You have the same cycle as always, and young people from that area end up looking for jobs in big cities, and then the cycle repeats. A real example of this is Nagoro itself, which is a village with only 30 inhabitants, but has 350 cloth dolls scattered throughout the town. A local artisan started making life-size dolls to replace the people who left or passed away there. It's a beautiful thing, but at the same time quite eerie. And Iberia was also a very prosperous mining town, and the population dropped by almost 100%. The city literally went bankrupt, and the numbers don't get better each year. You have furniture that costs less than used cars. There are houses being sold for 1 yen, literally less than $1. But it seems nobody wants to live in these places. And that's not Japan's only problem. The Japanese population has been shrinking since 2010. The country loses more than 500,000 people per year. That's 500,000 people simply disappearing every year. The birth rate is 1.3 children per woman. You need a person to have at least 2 children just to keep the population the same. In other words, Japan is shrinking, and they may be reduced by half in the next 50 or 60 years. Young people are fleeing en masse to Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya. In the countryside, in rural villages, there are only the elderly. And these elderly people cannot build a healthy economy in that place. Many rural schools simply go bankrupt and close every year. And it seems like there's not much solution for these places. It's an extremely complicated situation. And honestly, as it stands, we don't know where it will all end up. And that's quite a big irony, right? In fact, Japan is a very wealthy country and has millions of vacant houses. Meanwhile, there's a housing crisis in Tokyo. People living in tiny apartments and paying a fortune in rent. The problem isn't a lack of houses, it's a lack of distribution. It's a series of other problems. And the question is, will they be able to reverse this situation? Would you accept to live in a very friendly free house in the Japanese countryside? Comment below what you think about all this. And if you want to meet the Japanese women living on the streets that Japan tries to hide from the world, click on this video that's appearing here on your screen and come discover.